Good morning, everybody. My name is Samantha Goretto. I'm the Executive Director of Client Solutions at POLITICO. I'm joined by one of our leading partners, ACCENTURE, on stage today for a conversation this morning. ACCENTURE is a global technology service leader and has been working with some of the largest organizations in Europe for decades. Given the company's focus on technology, as well as its strong European footprint, it's interesting to have ACCENTURE's view on where Europe stands, in particular with regards to AI. I'm joined here by Mauro Macchi, who's the CEO of Europe, the Middle East, and Africa at ACCENTURE, to discuss the need for AI acceleration, why AI is critical in addressing Europe's declining productivity and competitiveness, and how Europe can benefit from AI while addressing its sovereignty concerns. Thank you for joining us, Mauro.
Thank you, Samantha. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Great. Let's get into it. So, given the current geopolitical environment right now, business leaders seem much more focused on tariffs and their consequences than anything else. Do you think AI is still a priority?
Well, absolutely, AI is going to be the priority. Of course, there is a moment of reflection given the context, but as we see every day, things are evolving. You see, the point is that every time a new technology arrives and starts to mature, is a great opportunity because there is a resetting of the level of competition and the level of competitiveness. This is true for a company, it's true for a country, it's true for an industry. So AI will represent clearly a differentiating factor in terms of competitiveness. In Europe, we all know that we have a significant issue in terms of productivity, and AI clearly has a tremendous impact on the opportunity to improve the productivity, to make our companies much more competitive, much more resilient, and by the way, this is going to be very important also in this moment of uncertainty. So I think that the name of the game in the next few months, few years, is going to be accelerating AI adoption, which at the moment is still quite slow, not only in Europe, at global level. And by the way, we are going to publish a study in the next couple of weeks where we show the level of adoption across Europe, across the different industry. So the name of the game will be to be an AI-ready company, an AI-ready institution, because at the end of the day, AI will enable the reinvention of processes, the reinvention of how people work, the reinvention of business and operating model. So clearly, it's not the moment to pause, it's the moment to actually accelerate on the adoption of AI.
And on that acceleration of adoption, do you think that European companies are doing it the right way? Where do they stand compared to the US or other markets?
So as we are going to show in this report that we're going to publish, basically, we need to distinguish when we talk about the G2000, G3000 companies, the good news is that the level of adoption is similar to other markets. So the large companies are really adopting at the same speed as in other markets. I have to say that, again, when I say the level of adoption is still low, because in the last couple of years, 2023, 2024, there were years of where a lot of piloting has been done, proof of concept, and today we can say that only out of 2,000 projects that we have examined, we have run, only 15% of them have started to really scale. So this is true also in other markets when we look at the bigger and the larger companies. The issue for us is going to be the mid-market. The mid-market, clearly in most of the European countries, mid-market, smaller firms are the heart of the economy, and this is where the adoption of AI is very, very slow. And so I think it's going to be very critical to address the mid-market need. And then also a strong focus on the critical infrastructure. In the AI Content Action Plan, it was indicated clearly, the critical infrastructure, the importance of critical infrastructures in every country, meaning utilities company, telco companies, energy companies, and so on. So they will need to adopt AI because they can be important platforms to enable the mid-market, smaller companies, to access to AI capabilities.
Great. So you say that European companies need to accelerate on AI, but as we've heard as well, all of the major providers of AI solutions are actually non-European. So with the current geopolitical situation, of course, sovereignty and independence is an issue on top of everybody's mind right now. Do you think that Europe is digging its own grave by accelerating on AI, as it actually may increase tech dependency on companies outside of Europe?
Well, this is the topic of the moment. We heard also from the previous panel that sovereignty is the key topic, digital sovereignty, sovereign cloud. All these topics are going to be really very hot in the coming months. In every conversation I have with CEOs across Europe, this is the topic of the moment. Clearly, we have seen a shift from what was sovereignty a few months ago, a few years ago, where the focus was on protection of data, protection, security, compliance, regulation. Now is much more about technology independence. So every player across Europe will look at how to rethink the technology independence. And we think there's going to be a shift, of course, because everybody's going to be interested, depending on the sector, some sector more than other ones, but there's going to be a shift in terms of architecture. So how to decouple in terms of where to have the data, how to manage different type of data. The topic of procurement, we heard a couple of comments earlier on in the previous panel. The topic of supply chain, so in terms of technology, moving more and more towards open source approaches, to reduce dependency from proprietary software. So clearly, sovereignty is going to be the key element of discussion. Every player will work. At the same time, also the global players the global tech, as you mentioned, are investing in sovereign solution, and clearly they will build a specific sovereign solution, because let's also think that maybe global companies who headquarters is outside of Europe will need to comply, operating in Europe, we need to comply to the topic of sovereignty. So again, it's going to be a very important topic, and we expect that this will trigger a lot of choices. I think that this also trigger choices in terms of cloud adoption, because Europe is far behind in terms of cloud adoption, and cloud is an enabler also for AI, to scale and to provide value across the organization. So yes, I think we don't have an issue in terms of is it going to be a trade-off between access to global innovation and at the same time defend the national sovereignty and so on.
Great. Now, you've mentioned the importance for organizations to not simply just adopt AI, but to actually use it as a catalyst for real transformation. Can you share an example of a company that's really put AI at the center of its strategy and the impact that it's had on their business?
Well, you see, we see every day, as I was mentioning before, more than 2,000 projects done on AI. We see every day the adoption and the testing of AI in the different processes. And in fact, in our report, we show which industry are scaling faster. There are some industry like, for example, life science, like automotive, industrial in general, are adopting at a faster scale compared to other industries. For example, life science clearly is an industry where AI is adopted at a high level, and we have some important companies, important European champions, global champions in Europe, Novo Nordisk. I can mention other ones where we are working together, basically using AI in their internal processes, for example, in the R&D, having technicians and scientists understand how to test in a more effective way the effectiveness of drugs. And we know that in life science, to put a drug on the market, it takes 10 to 12 years. So it's a long time. So we can imagine how AI can accelerate this process. So clearly there are many instances where we see AI working. Basically, we've seen in this project that 50% of the application, more or less, are on productivity and cost. Again, the topic of importance about productivity gain for a company. The remaining of 50% is split across customer experience, growth, risk and regulation. So we see a widespread application of AI across the entire organization, and every company is really experimenting, and clearly some of them really now are moving into scaling, also not only in enterprise function, but also in the core processes of an organization.
That's so interesting to hear all of the variety of applications for it. That's great. Now, you'd also mentioned the idea of skilling and preparing the workforce. So in order to become AI ready, companies really need to rethink their actual ways of working and their talent strategy. Would you say that European companies are doing enough in this space?
Well, I think that this is a very important point. I think that is going to be the critical point, because skills, talent, capabilities are going to be the critical element in terms of success for every organization. We have a lesson learned from the past wave. I remember that in 2012 we were saying that every business is a digital business. So that we saw what happened in the last 10 years in terms of digitization, and maybe there were not enough focus on change management, learning, but this time is going to be even more important. So skilling, upskilling is the top priority for every organization. we have seen that 90% of the organization are saying that they are not yet equipped in terms of training at scale their employee. And by the way, AI is really about trust, it's about engagement. You cannot really scale AI if you don't bring together your workforce within a company. So I think in the next couple of years, every player is going to be very much involved around education, and education across the entire generation on a company, because you need senior people really understanding the value of AI, how AI can really be applied, and then of course the entire organization needs to follow. So this is, I think, is going to be the critical element in terms of focus, and having the possibility as a large company. We operate across Europe with more than 130,000 people across all the countries. We work with most of the large players. We see that this is the debate that we are having. So education, reskilling, upskilling is going to be a very important area of investment. So it's not only a technology investment, technology focus, but it's going to be people and transformation and change management focus.
Yeah, that's nice to hear. There's still a human-centered element to AI, which is great.
Absolutely, because in the next years we will see more and more. We talk about agentic architecture, so agents, digital agents, and we start working, with some of these digital agents already in our everyday life, and so we will see more and more digital agents work with human. So the next thinking is how organization will have a human working with digital agents in the right way, and that's why people needs to get used, needs to learn, needs to understand the power of it. So it's going to be a very interesting dynamic in terms of also organization setup, organization evolution, in the way people work and live basically with AI.
Great, wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Mauro, for this exchange. Very insightful. It sounds like Europe has a lot of opportunity to transform the future of AI while still retaining its values, and again, as you'd mentioned, really leaning into the people behind it. So we now ask that the attendees remain seated, as there's going to be an editorial session starting shortly titled Innovation and Regulation, Striking the Sweet Spot, moderated by Peter Hack, our senior technology reporter. Thank you very much.
Thank you.